Welcome back to the show. This is SOS.
And this is Sly Elsewhere.
And we're going to be talking about the end of the world in media on The Apocalypse Bros. Welcome back to another episode of The Apocalypse Bros. I'm SOS.
And I'm Sly Elsewhere.
And we mentioned that already, so if you hadn't heard it, that's your own fault.
Yeah. We just thought we'd remind you.
We did. Just to really ingrain it into your heads. It's kind of like it's a psychological thing.
We didn't know if our advertisements were so long you forgot. Like, wait, what?
It's enforced advertising, marketing, and remarketing terms. And speaking of marketing and, commercials and things like that, we're going to be talking about, it's just going to be me and Sly today, and we're going to be talking about some of our favorite post-apocalyptic media in pre-apocalyptic times. We all remember some great movies that came out, some great shows, etc. that came out during that time. We're just going to, etc. We're going to take a moment to remember those, think about them, maybe give you a little bit of inspiration. Maybe some ideas will come out of it. We'll say, hey, remember that time when that character did that one thing? And then it's like, whoa, we should totally do that. Let's start with movies. I don't know. Is that the best best way to kind of handle it? Probably. So, Sly, what's one of your favorite post-apocalyptic movies?
So one of my most famous apocalyptic movies, this is kind of post-apocalyptic. I guess I don't really know how to quite say it, but was the movie 28 Days Later.
Yes.
Now, for those of you zombie movie fans and stuff, this was one of my favorite ones, probably because zombies were predicted so differently in it. The zombies weren't necessarily like these brain dead zombies. Basically what happens, they really had this virus, and it was like this rage virus, and it basically made them kind of like the humans kind of super crazy and strong and fast and stuff. So instead of a lot of your zombies, think of the old classic show, The Walking Dead, which, as we mentioned, is still going on today.
To this day.
Cast, they just can't let a good thing die.
They really can't.
10 years too late. So when you think of zombies, there it's kind of brains, and they walk super slow, kind of like
a lot like our Rona roamers.
Right, your classic thought of that. Yeah, majority of Rona roamers. But these were like these rage zombies that were super fast, really strong and stuff. So now it is apocalypse, but this is really only 4 weeks into the apocalypse. So they also have another one called 28 Weeks Later.
Yes.
A sequel to the film, which is pretty good. I like 28 Days Later a little bit more, but that actually gives you a little more apocalypse feel. Mm-hmm. A lot less people around, kind of more individual survivors that kind of have to survive themselves and meet up and stuff. But it's definitely one of my favorite films I remember watching pre-apocalypse back when I was just a young buck, a young teen.
Pre-apocalypse or pre-apocalyptic selves. Now, I will completely agree with you. I absolutely love 28 Days Later. I love 28 Weeks Later as well. I thought those were great movies. Personally, I'm a huge zombie fan in general. Mm-hmm. So I loved everything from the kind of more comedic side where you got like Zombieland to a much more serious side. Like Resident Evil. I love the Resident Evil movies. Right. I know a lot of people kind of felt a little bit of this way or that way about how they kind of portrayed the movies versus the games.
Yeah.
People really love the games.
They definitely don't
work.
I think that's why so many people have been in the past worried about games to movie crossovers and stuff. Because a lot of times the representation quite isn't there. But
it tends to not be.
They put their creative take on it.
There's been a few that have succeeded, but I wouldn't say, and I haven't played a huge amount. I think of the Resident Evil games, I think the only one that I've really played all the way through was Resident Evil 4. Which is one of my favorites.
I love Resident Evil
games 4. In general.
I remember when that came out. Leon. That was one of the ones that I literally had a game guide for, and I did not miss a single thing. I wanted to get every unlockable, everything like that. Now I didn't use it to help me with plot stuff unless I really got stuck, but I wanted to make sure as I did the plot stuff that any like extras I wasn't missing that special stuff. So
absolutely, yeah. No, Resident Evil 4, awesome, loved it. The movies, I think it went Resident Evil 4, and then I watched like all the movies. And then played Resident Evil 5 like halfway through. I watched somebody play Resident Evil 7 all the way through. That was terrifying. That was a scary game. Games are also media, so this counts. But yeah, anyways, Resident Evil movies. Even some like more foreign films like Train to Busan. That was really good. Things like that, as far as zombies go at least. So yeah, I totally agree. Zombie stuff. Right up my alley.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else is out there? Snowpiercer, that was a crazy take on the apocalypse concept in general.
Yeah,
where, like,
I never
the Earth kind of
ever got around to seeing that one.
Yeah, no. So basically, and I'll try not to leave any spoilers or anything like that. We're here to just kind of discuss the media, how we were depicting the media apocalypse, and then kind of where we're at now. So obviously the zombie ones, they to some extent had it right, because now we've got Rona Romers, which are kind of almost the exact same thing. A little bit take on how they got to where they're at, but nevertheless. As far as Snowpiercer goes, world freezes over, and the last of humanity is riding this train that travels all across the earth, and then they're like each section of the train like maintains the rest of the train. So you've got people working in the back that keep shoveling coal into the train or whatever. You've got, there's somewhere in the center, you've got the food processing. You've got an entire thing that's like a greenhouse section of the train. It's crazy. There's actually a whole theory out there that Snowpiercer actually comes from the world of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's all related.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Oh my gosh, the whole thing. I mean, you'd obviously have to see the movie Snowpiercer. I know there's the show that was coming out before the apocalypse kind of started kicking in.
Yeah, I kind of saw I remember the show.
I haven't watched any of that yet, but if I managed to somehow find, I don't know, they didn't really print copies per se, but yeah. If somehow I come across it, I definitely will have to check it out, because it was kind of intriguing. But yeah, supposedly there's a number of factors throughout the entire movie that kind of seemed strangely closely related to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Right.
I remember watching through that very interesting kind of conspiracy theory, I suppose.
That is pretty cool.
So
I like the crossover, different things like that and stuff.
Oh my gosh, it's always mind-blowing. So
because isn't Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory especially, or possibly, I mean, I guess even when you look at the newer version, like Charlie Chocolate Factory,
yeah,
it almost feels like it's sort of steampunk-like.
Yeah. And trains are always depicted as being kind of steampunk.
Yeah. What's that version where it's like it's in like the past, but it's like future.
Sure.
Can't think of what.
I know what you're talking about. Like
yeah,
sort of a futuristic but apocalyptic steampunk
at the same time. Yeah, but that's kind of what
they have such crazy terms once they start getting like really detailed with their.
Yeah, there's so many different like versions of like, apocalypse movies and stuff. So, but yeah, I really, so I guess I could really see how they could put those together like that.
You know what I totally forgot to even mention when we were talking about zombies, like Day of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, that whole like setup. Night of the Living Dead is classic, obviously. That was like OG zombie movie. They're coming to get you, Barbara. You know, interestingly enough, on the topic of zombies...
Black and white stuff.
Black and white, that's right. I actually was grossed out more by some of the gore in the original black and white Night of the Living Dead than I am in... I don't know why. Maybe it's just like, it's too realistic, and I just can't like...
Because it's not all these crazy like... Yeah. It doesn't... It feels different,
But taking away the color and everything from
sometimes making it
black and white,
give you that creepiness,
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. Actually, interesting story. Pre-apocalypse, of course, we actually shot a video, sort of almost like a commercial for a business, a restaurant called Zombie Burger.
Oh, yes.
Up in Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah.
And really interesting. The whole place, I don't know what it looks like now that the apocalypse has happened. Whole place is decorated out to look like kind of a bunker a little bit. It's got all kinds of zombie paraphernalia
We
inside.
get that.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. Just awesome, really cool, like meeting the people in charge, meeting some of the staff, kind of learning about it. They actually had all their burger, their whole menu, in fact, is themed after kind of like horror theme, zombie theme, things like that. And my favorite burger of all time was actually they're coming to get you Barbara Burger.
Ooh, nice.
Which is a heck of a thing to fit on a menu, you know.
Nice.
It's actually 2 grilled cheese sandwiches with the crust cut off. That's the buns to like a big bacon cheeseburger that like barely fits in your hands. It's delicious.
My arteries got clogged just thinking about it.
I know, right? Yeah. Well, yeah, we won't even talk about, burgers like the Walking Ched, or there's the Trailer Trash Zombie Burger, which is like a barbecue pork, pulled pork kind of thing. It's crazy. Anyways, we're not talking about restaurants. We're talking about media. You notice how there's kind of a weird trend in a lot of apocalypse movies where there's a desert? I mean, you either go like really extreme, like The Day After Tomorrow and things like that, or Snowpiercer, where it's like there's winter.
You either like apocalypse. In like the Antarctic, or you're like in like like in the desert.
Or the desert. It's one of two extremes. Most there's a lot of zombie movies that take place in kind of a desert region.
I think because the more desolate something feels, just kind of creepier it is and stuff.
The more it pulls you away from kind of humanity and civilization.
There's not a lot of like, I mean, and or even you think of something like, well, The Walking Dead was kind of based out of Atlanta, but even in that place, the majority of the time they're spending a lot of time in wooded, foresty areas.
True.
Which again is kind of creepy because you never can really see the zombies coming. You can get turned around. But and obviously it's just kind of creepier and with and darker and stuff in the forest. So, and I think maybe that's a big part of it. It's not as fun when you're in the Midwest and there's just cornfields and flat ground. And it's like, oh, you can see zombies over there. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, it kind of gives that where nature kind of retakes the city, kind of like I Am Legend.
Yes,
that's a good example of that.
Another classic.
Yeah, where in another kind of adaptation of zombies too. Although I think in the original book, if I remember correctly, they were supposed to be vampires.
Really?
Yeah. I remember a friend of mine he had read it. He told me all about it. It was kind of like a very different adaptation when it came to the movie.
I could see that because they're almost, you watch the end of it, they're almost humanistic. In the way that they can kind of
strategize.
Yeah, like they can almost like they comprehend some of their stuff and they sort of like see stuff that reminds them of their past lives and stuff. So they're not quite lost. It's kind of one of those things like, can they be saved? Type of things. Kind of like what some people believe about the coronavirus now. Can the roamers still be saved? And so
can they? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't. That's why we don't say go out and kill them. Try to run first.
And try to stay away from them if you can, just in case they can be saved. I know there's a lot of weird regulation coming on that one. I mean, there's so many zombies. Shaun of the Dead, that's one of my favorites. Love Shaun of the Dead. Warm Bodies, that was kind of an interesting take where like these zombies kind of had like a humanity
it's like zombie
to them.
romance, right?
Yeah. Which is bizarre.
I think that was about the first, I don't know, I won't want to say ever because I'm not a connoisseur of all zombie movies, but I feel like that might have been one of the first zombie movies to ever really have it from the zombies' point of view. Because you really don't, obviously you have the hero of the zombie, movies that are trying to, survive, but you kind of, there's a whole different thing.
It's a whole other world, whole other way of looking at it, which is kind of bizarre. Let's see, what else? Trying to get off of zombies. It's kind of hard because I feel like, at least in the U.S. as a society, it felt like we really just went down the zombie rabbit hole.
I remember and obviously now that you're in the apocalypse, you're less really wanting to see zombies, but I remember as a kid and stuff, and a teenager, you always thought like, zombie apocalypse would be so cool. Yeah. Just from all the games stuff, because that was all it was. There was just media on it. It was like the early 1980s. You had like your Mad Max stuff. Yep. And even like your Escape from Detroit type stuff.
Oh, dude, those were great. Well, wait, hold up. Was it L.A.?
Escape from L.A.
L.A. That was a good one. Escape from. No, wait, which one was it? I'm trying to remember. One of them was really good. I think it was Escape from New York was the first one. Yeah, that one was really good.
But I think there was Escape from New York, Escape from L.A.
I know Escape from L.A. was much more. It's kind of disappointing. It got kind of lame.
Yeah, well, I think that's what happened when you try to do the same. Yeah, it's like, well, this is kind of a different.
I mean, they literally took the whole concept and they said, let's just do it again, just switch cities.
It's kind of what happened with.
I like the ending where it became an apocalypse. Oh yeah, it basically EMP'd like the whole world. Yeah. Which was sorry, that was a spoiler. We just talked about that.
Yeah, well, the whole idea of the Escape from New York, LA. I mean, they're basically in a city that is a prison, basically. Yeah. Think like Australia. You move out of prison to Australia. Yep. And like they're stuck there, but this is like just a giant city with walls that you're trying to escape. Like just a kind of a crazy concept. So absolutely, it's apocalypse style in that way. Another one that is either one of those hate it or love it. Is a classic in its own right is Waterworld.
Waterworld. I don't think I feel like I might have heard of this.
So it's Kevin Costner.
Okay.
And it's literally a world that is completely like underwater. Okay. And there are like small pieces of land. Basically, like a small piece of land and stuff. But yeah, it's just this giant apocalyptic style world where everything is like a water and stuff. Sure. So it's kind of like I guess Atlantis, everything else is above water. So
I really need to mark this down, if that because this is the second time I remember hearing about this. Yeah, and it's just really intriguing me.
In our house, we watched that quite a bit because my sister was like obsessed with like Waterworld and stuff. So
Interesting.
it was on like all the time and stuff. I remember her friends would come over and watch it. So
It sounds really good. I definitely will be checking
it's definitely
it out
unique
if I can find a copy of it.
yeah, it's I mean because that's what we talk about how deserts.
Yeah.
You see a lot of deserts, you see a lot of Arctic areas, but when you're seeing something just completely all on water,
Sure.
it kind of creates a whole other thing. So it's kind of cool.
Definitely. Speaking of unique, one of the most unique apocalypse movies that I ever saw was Reign of Fire, which is something that kind of blew me away as far as like where do we go. Most times we think of apocalypse being, let's take a concept that seems realistic that could happen to us and end the world with it. Just before pre-apocalypse, I was watching, I can't even remember what it was called, a movie where essentially the Earth core stops rotating, which causes I feel really bad discussing the concept of it and then not being able to tell you the name. Had an incredible cast of very recognizable names that I'm not going to list because I'm terrible with names. But nevertheless...
But he never forgets a face.
I never forget a face. That's right. That's right. In fact, I was picking out people and I was like, oh, who is that? That's from that one thing. And then everyone's
That's
like,
what
I know the actual name.
That's what we always do all the time,
Yeah. It's kind of a fun game. Yeah. But anyway, the Earth's core had stopped rotating, and so it was causing a lot of apocalyptic events to start happening, and then they had to send in... it's always... Or even like 2012, is even based off the whole concept of the Mayan calendar or whatever. I think it was... Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Mayan, and like, oh, why does it stop at 2012? And then, boom, they made the movie, because it seems like, oh, we're going to hit the apocalypse. Or the day after tomorrow, where the world kind of like freezes over. Things along those lines. Anyways... They always take like a very realistic concept, create an apocalypse based off of it. In Reign of Fire, the apocalypse is due to dragons.
Oh.
Literally dragons. Like they mined really deep, and then they awoke a dragon. It came out. A bunch of other dragons came out. And I mean, these are like legit, like Game of Thrones level dragons. Like a person cannot kill a dragon.
Sure.
Like it's just not one person alone. It's ridiculous.
Say it's like they're fracking dragons.
Yeah, they're fracking dragons.
The fracking dragons.
Those fracking dragons. That's great. We should write a book called The Fracking Dragon.
It's a mining term,
book.
guys.
It's about dragons that are miners. It's a children's book, The Fracking Dragon. This is great. Yeah, this is the ideas I was talking about.
Good stuff.
That's good stuff. So that was definitely one of the weirdest, or not weirdest in a bad way, but like just kind of most bizarre apocalypse concept that I come across.
That is interesting.
Another one that was really weird, the movie 9. Yeah. Literally the number 9. Elijah Wood was one of the main voices. Yeah, they were like almost like voodoo doll looking things. And like some survivor, like this scientist had like sort of inserted his soul. Very weird, mystical. But like the rest of the movie is just really interesting of these sort of like technology took over. Yeah. I guess would be the best. Kind of like Meet the Robinsons with the hat. Kind of along those lines. You invented something, that something kind of ended up turning against you, and now you're gone. And then these little puppet people are like fighting against it. It's just really interesting. I personally like that one a lot.
And there's 9 of them, by the way.
There is 9 of them, hence the number. That was actually, it came out in 2009, and I remember there was like a dozen movies that had 9 in the title. It was kind of ridiculous. Wow. I don't know why they were all playing off of that. That's right.
One of mine, my favorite, just because I was kind of just I mean, sort of was a twist. I mean, if you weren't really paying attention, but also it was kind of just a cool thing to see what he was. I guess there was a couple twists. One with the guy itself and what thing he was delivering, but the Book of Eli. I think that feel like once again the Book of Eli, people either like love it or like they didn't get it and they just weren't a fan of it. Exactly. Because it is kind of one of those slower movies.
It is, yeah. I mean, there's stuff going on to like notice as far as like an apocalypse goes, but yeah, it is. The story and the action is a little bit slower.
Yeah. But the cool thing, I mean, it's about it's kind of as cheesy as Mad Max kind of got, especially. They kind of laid the groundwork for a lot of what the apocalyptic world would look like in movies. The sort of wastelands, the Thunderdome aspect of it, which we do have in today, probably because of that. But why not?
Out here in the Coronapocalypse,
nothing else to do.
Nothing else.
But just the crazy spike cars and the super ridiculous outfits with the leather and spikes and just insane outfits.
Great Mad Max
looking
stuff.
like Bane
Yeah.
out there. So, but just that style, everything's metal. I mean, so yeah, they that's kind of the aspect the Book of Eli sort of is, not as crazy or cheesy, but I just like the idea because he's kind of got this package, and the whole idea he's delivering this thing, trying to get to a place. He's kind of like a messenger.
Mm-hmm.
He's sort of like a peaceful guy, but also you can tell he knows how to fight in the movie. And like I said, a
he's
couple
like
twists in it.
Peaceful, don't mess with him because he'll mess back.
He's basically like a monk.
Yeah.
He's just on his way to deliver stuff, but if you end up messing with him, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, he's focused.
Yeah.
He's got his mission. Don't get in the way of that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good one. If you find it somewhere, check it out.
Absolutely, that is a good one. The book and the. Let's see, another weird one that I remember watched not too long before the apocalypse began. It was actually a French movie, which I honestly never thought.
Oui.
Yeah, right. And it was all in French, so I had to read the subtitles the whole
yeah,
time because I cannot speak French or read French. Well, I guess that wouldn't help if I could read French. Then I'd be reading French subtitles.
That'd be cool.
I guess so. I can't hear and understand French, but I can definitely read it. Yeah. But it was called Delicatessen, and I'm probably butchering the French speaking of that.
It's like a
word.
food term, I'm pretty sure.
It is. And that was kind of the obscure nature of this apocalypse. It was sort of like take a wasteland and you have like little societies of people spread across. Everybody's for the most part pretty comfortable in the wasteland at this point. They realize, this is where we're at, this is what we're stuck in. There's kind of a constant thing of resources being sent out and whatnot. And it's all about this guy that moves in to work for the landlord of this like apartment building that sits above a butcher shop. The butcher is the landlord. He is also the butcher, of course.
Sure.
Very weird, very dark. People die. People are eaten.
Wow.
People try, and some people succeed at committing suicide.
Oh, that's fun.
So, very weird movie. And then the whole thing, and this is something that I've noticed a couple of times. I've seen, this is only like one of maybe 2 or 3 French movies I've probably ever seen in my life. They have a very weird view on suicide. It is very strange. They take a very comedic look at suicide.
Oh.
And so they definitely did that in this movie. They've done it in another movie that I watched. Very weird.
Interesting. Oh, yeah. I've never seen that before. Wow.
Yeah, so just to forewarn you, it's very strange.
Yeah.
As far as apocalypse movies go.
Goodness. Yeah, I mean, just to rattle off a few, that go on detail. You have obviously the Terminator movies.
Terminators.
Classic.
Yep.
I'll
be back.
Yeah, the farther they got in. Well, I mean, sort of yes and no. So the first one, obviously, you kind of have John Connor is basically, basically trying to protect his producers,
Yeah.
his mother and father, trying to keep them alive. You got Arnold Schwarzenegger playing the bad Terminator then. And then this movie 2, he comes back as the good Terminator. And then obviously kind of they just get more and more as a lot of these things do. But early on, it's not apocalypse yet, but it's going to be.
Yep.
So you kind of see what the future would look like in it. And then I think it might be the third one where you really kind of see the rise of machines, the apocalypse of it, and the ones after that. So in a way, yeah, you kind of start to see the apocalypse take place in that. On a lighter note, you have good old Wall-E.
Yeah.
You might not think of it as an apocalypse, but it
really
is.
Humans just basically outused all the resources on Earth, and they had to GTFO, but they left this little robot behind.
And now they're in space and basically doing the same
fat.
stuff and just being fat, and everything is provided for them. Not much different than it was just before the apocalypse.
I was going to say, yeah, that's kind of ironic.
Everything
right?
on screens, like they really don't even have to walk to do anything, to move. They just
get your
down.
bicentennial muffin today in a smoothie.
Yep, exactly.
That's a good one. I almost forgot about that.
So yeah, Wall-E's one of those classics that is, kind of it's like, oh, that is like an apocalypse movie. So
we talked a lot about zombies. A lot of apocalypse that comes off of aliens. Cloverfield, I think technically was an alien. I'm pretty sure there was some alien implications in there.
It kind of felt like a Godzilla type thing, but it was a different. You never really found.
Yeah, you never really fully see it to an extent where you can really pinpoint. I mean, obviously it wasn't a really pinpointable creature.
I feel like Cloverfield And obviously, once again, you're really not getting to the apocalypse yet because you're just seeing this one city.
Yeah, it's kind of like the start of it.
Yeah, it's one.
Well, and then because you'll have 10 Cloverfield Lane afterwards, which shows kind of more the implication of what the world turned into thanks to the events of the original Cloverfield movie.
Sure.
Which that one actually just completely mind blew me. John Goodman did absolutely fantastic.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I loved. Yeah, that second, that was really...
I enjoyed Cloverfield, and I get the appeal, but, like, oh my gosh, 10 Cloverfield Lane blew me away.
Yeah, I was not... Because I saw the trailers, and I really wasn't knowing what to expect. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I'll just watch it at home one day. And, as I watched it, I'm like, this is not all I expect. This is, like... It was crazy. It was dark. And the thing is, like, once again, like, it was definitely apocalypse, but you really don't know exactly how apocalypse it is, because they're kind of stuck in the bunker and stuff. But
yeah. But that, just in and of itself, the fact that the whole thing was pretty much filmed just inside of the bunker. Yeah. We should do that. We have a bunker, after all.
We should. Does not look like that, though.
Yeah.
Probably because of that movie.
It's like, a bit smaller. Yeah. I don't want to become that guy. Let's see.
You want to be creeped out for a while. Yeah, watch that one.
Another possible option on the alien front, and again, this is kind of a bit of a spoiler here, but the movie The World's End, or At World's End, I can't remember, with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that one was one of those movies. I was sitting there, I was watching it for the first time. I was watching it with people that had already seen it.
You gotta love Simon Pegg.
Simon Pegg is great. Nick Frost is great. Love both of them. There was the scene that like flips you completely on your end. If you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Just completely changes the whole movie for you. Like, you're already sitting there, you're like, oh, I enjoy this movie. This is going to be fun. This is going to be a great movie. And then something happens that completely flips the entire tone of the movie, and you're just left sitting there like, wait, no, what? That just happened right there? So, obviously, it's always fun to be the person. This is one of those movies where it's always fun to be the person that's already seen it and then watching
somebody else
the other person. Yeah, someone who hasn't seen it. So, but great, weird, but great and also hilarious post-apocalyptic movie. Just like Shaun of the Dead. That was another, by the same people. Great movie. Knowing me and the person that I am, I'm gonna throw a couple titles your way that are specific or related in a specific way. Attack on Titan, High School of the Dead.
Oh, yeah, Attack on Titan. Yeah.
Animes that deal with the post-apocalyptic.
I know Attack on Titan. I've never seen it, but I've heard that was kind of a big one.
I'm not caught up because, unfortunately, we lost that ability once the apocalypse hit. Yeah, but
Netflix wasn't as easy to obtain.
It's not. It's really not, which is always frustrating. But Attack on Titan is definitely one of the apocalypse movies or shows or media, whatever, that I'm most appreciative that wasn't the apocalypse that we just went into.
Yes.
That would be my least favorite. The idea of getting eaten by giants does not appeal to me in any such way. High School of the Dead, definitely not recommended for kids.
Kind of sounds like it.
Not for the reason you think either. Yeah, for the reason that you might think when you hear anime. A lot of fan servicing, I'll admit, and yes, I know you're probably thinking, SOS, you can't be watching all that fan service. And I'm sorry, I know it's not always healthy for your moral state, but dang if High School of the Dead wasn't an entertaining anime about zombies.
That's how they get you. They bring you with the entertainment.
They bring you in with the zombies, and then they ruin your mind with the...
Yeah, that sounds about right.
The other content.
Yeah, because I don't watch a lot of animes, but...
I don't watch a lot of anime, but when I do...
Full Metal Alchemist was one my friend used to watch, so I caught a little bit of that. That seemed kind of apocalyptic style.
A little bit. It kind of had a feel... I get where the feel... Kind of more of a early, 17th to 18th century.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it.
Kind of that steampunk idea,
style, yeah. So it felt kind of like... I guess when you have a steampunk, a lot of times it feels that way, just with kind of the different stuff. And that's why Speaking of, that's what I was going to say before... In the last few minutes here, we could transition and talk about just video game style.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So some of the video games, those for you kids out there, were things that you played on the TV. I know there's still some, but not nearly as gettable and playable as they were back in the day.
True.
How hard you can't download mods in anything.
Yeah, you can't get my mods.
But your classics obviously are gonna have to be Fallout.
Oh, love Fallout.
The Fallout. Speaking of when a nuke goes out, the fallout that remains afterwards.
really put the waste in wasteland.
It really
Wait,
did.
that sounds bad. It feels like I'm dissing the game.
Well,
it really put the wasteland concept into
well, you waste your
perspective.
time how much you play is how good it is.
True. The amount of
So-
hours I put into Fallout 4 is
Yeah.
probably ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah, you know, escape from kind of a bunker to try to.
I put a
find
few
your
hours
kid.
into Fallout 76. I know that got a lot of flack
It did
for
that.
it, but I personally enjoyed, at least to some extent. It was a little bit quiet.
It was quiet. It was strangely quiet. Which is probably honestly
No
what you might
NPCs,
feel.
really.
It was like wasteland. Like they
Yeah.
put the wasteland in like wasteland, like for reals. So yeah, Fallout obviously. You know the Bioshock.
Oh my
is
gosh.
just kind of crazy.
Would that be considered apocalyptic?
I would think so. I mean, so
Well, I guess, yeah, it's kind of like, well,
So
yeah,
I-
they built a new world.
they
I guess.
had this new world that was kind of, you know, and I mean, it was apocalyptic in the sense of where you were at.
Yeah.
You know, thinking of, you know, the first one, you're on this plane, all of a sudden you crash, and then you're, you know, you wash up in this underground world, and now this is kind of your world that you live in for now, and there's all these
a
crazy
big
creatures
adjustment.
and everything else. Yeah, so
Yeah, I guess that makes
so
sense.
I mean, it's apocalyptic feel in that standpoint because, you know, I think when you think of apocalypse, you think about,
Yeah.
is there a large amount of people? Has life been changed because of it? You know, what you eat, what you drink, what you abstain. You know, all these things has life been changed
Sure.
in a very Jurassic
In
way?
a very end kind of way.
Exactly.
That
Where
actually-
it's survival of the fittest type of stuff.
And that could even bring about another way to look at it, which is that the world that you went into, at least in the original Bioshock movie, or game, sorry, that was coming to an end.
Exactly.
Everybody had torn it apart.
And that's why
People were going insane. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's a good point. That's a good point. It was a world that was ended,
Yeah.
I guess. So yeah, no, that makes sense. We talked about Resident Evil, obviously. There's a lot of zombie games. I feel like
Yeah.
games is where zombies really
Oh
go.
yeah. Plenty
Last of
zombies
Us,
to play. Last of Us,
fantastic.
that was a great one.
Oh my gosh.
One of the best probably adventure games I've played. Not even
Absolutely.
just in the zombie genre.
Just in general, the
Was just,
story
yeah, the
was
playthrough.
mind blowing.
Yep, wonderful.
very
playthrough.
emotional.
Even back in the multiplayers where you'd play with your friends across wherever online, kids, and you could play with them. You know, that was even pretty entertaining in that
Sure.
as well.
My personal favorite, like, apocalypse related game of all time. Now I know I mentioned Resident Evil, and I hope that earlier I didn't say that it was my favorite of the Resident Evil games. At least, and granted, I hadn't played a whole lot, but I've at least played or watched people play them. Resident Evil 4 was my favorite. But of all the zombie games that were out there, Dead Rising was by far my favorite. There was nothing that was just more personally enjoyable
Just fun.
than running around a mall,
Hitting
grabbing
people's shopping carts,
anything
Throwing,
off
you know.
the walls or whatever. I mean, this was actually when we
Golf
first
clubs,
started
baseball
seeing the
bats.
apocalypse. I was kind of thinking to myself, man, I almost wish those Rona Romers had started sooner, and we could have just jumped right into this. I could have gone to the mall, gotten a hockey stick, and started hitting pucks at zombies.
That scene in Zombieland 2 kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah.
When all kind of, you know, had a very Dead Rising feel to it.
Exactly. Like, and then it just kept. Well, it got better in 2, I'd say, where you can start kind of connecting things, making taking a kayak,
create your own
slap
weapon type
2
stuff.
chainsaws on either end of the kayaks. With paddles, and then
Physics.
just yeah, I know, right? I'm sure there was some questionability to some of that stuff, but the amazing like combinations you could come up with the weapons was great. I know they continued that concept into the game 3, which I actually had at the start of the apocalypse. I never got around to playing it, which sucks, but I did watch a lot of footage. That was the last one they did. Well, they only had 4, but the last one they did where they had the like psychopath bosses throughout the thing. And it's actually kind of interesting because you kind of saw a lot of that sort of thing happen when the actual apocalypse started, the Coronapocalypse that we live in today. There were people that were, you know, pretty horrifying people. You know, butchers eating people.
Oh, yeah.
You know, human meat, things
Yeah.
like that. You know, some pretty scary stuff. And
Tainted
sometimes
meat.
I'd hear these stories and I'd be like, dang, I swear I played that boss in Dead Rising one time.
Right?
And it just got really bizarre. Or I watched somebody play that boss in Dead Rising, you know.
Yeah.
So, but definitely one of my favorites personally. I think that's a pretty good
I
summary.
think that's a pretty good summary. I mean,
yeah.
there's plenty of things. You know, you can always go into shows and everything, but yeah, there's
We
a
can get
lot.
into some
A
ridiculous
lot of stuff out there, you know.
You know, like there was what was it, like Dead? Oh shoot, I remember watching a particular zombie movie. Oh, it was with my roommate once in college, pre-apocalypse, of course, called Flight of the Living Dead. I don't think it was technically connected to the Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, whatever movies.
On a plane?
Yep, they were on a plane. The acting was absolutely horrendous.
Was it one of those super terrible but amazing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's what was great about it. Like I said, it was great to watch with my roommate. You know, we just sat there and made fun of it the whole time.
Did a zombie end up flying the plane? Is my question.
Not flying the plane, but a zombie actually managed to take out a fighter jet.
Oh,
believe it or not.
Nice.
It was a person that was kind of a jerk partway through the movie that had clipped themselves, nice tight seatbelt. So obviously, once they got bit, they were just a zombie sitting on a chair, just flailing around, trying to grab somebody, hoping that maybe one of the survivors runs close enough that it can grab them and eat them or whatever. Well, at the end of the movie, the plane ends up getting shot down. Sorry, again, spoilers. I love how I say that after I already give it away.
If you ever watch that movie.
Yeah, and so they shoot the plane down, and then one of the surviving pieces of the plane is this seat with a zombie going, and then it just it just happens to cross paths with one of the fighter jets, and then the fighter jet blows up, and then of course all the zombies just start hitting the ground. They're they were flying over the desert at the time, so now all these zombies are just picking themselves up off the ground. I'm like, okay, but no, not from 20,000 feet into the air. That's ridiculous.
That's what I was. I'm like, now. I guess it's possible that their brain stems and brains haven't been smashed, but their bodies would still be smashed. You wouldn't be able to move. Yeah. It might be a head, but even I would think a lot of that, you're probably going to have a lot of brain impacts that are not going to be if you have any zombies surviving. Yeah, you're probably not going to have a lot. So
yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. I remember one particular line from the movie was, "Whoa, bullets are flying from somewhere," which is exactly what we're all thinking when we start getting shot at.
The Oscar goes to anything but that.
That guy, yeah. So,
Best Confused Actor Award.
He had no idea. It's kind of like that scene from Alien where the dude falls onto the table and then the alien busts out of his chest.
Oh yeah.
And the other actors, I guess they never told them what to expect.
Oh, I did hear
about
that.
So when they were watching this all play out, they were like, "Whoa!" They were pretty blown away. Yeah. So yeah, that's what that actor had happened. They didn't tell him this is a zombie movie. They just told him,
"Whoa, why are the
it's an action movie on a plane." And he's like, "Oh, cool, bro. I'll totally do that." And then all of a sudden, whoa, bullets are flying from somewhere.
Yeah.
And they're like, we didn't write that, but go with it.
Yeah. We don't have time to edit and retake. One take only.
Just go with it. Yeah, we don't have that kind of money. It was a pretty low budget film.
I imagine so.
But I think that's a pretty solid take on Sly and I's apocalyptic media preferences, the things that we've enjoyed, the things that we thought were weird, the various different kind of themes of how we defined the apocalypse pre the actual apocalypse which we're living in now, the Coronapocalypse. So, this is kind of like that movie, The Flu or whatever, or there was that one with the bird flu or something.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of more along those lines because it all started with disease.
I was trying to think of what, yeah.
But unfortunate as that was, not zombie disease either. I don't know. No. We all say that, how cool would it have been to have lived in the zombie apocalypse? But in reality, it's it'd be pretty depressing.
It would be pretty depressing.
So, but hey, here we are. Making our way through the apocalypse. We hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Maybe helped you reminisce a little bit. Helped you think a little bit about the way things were before they were the way they are now.
And hit us up with your favorite pre-apocalypse in our group.
Please do. Whether it's the Facebook group, whether it's which you can access by going to facebook.com/apocalypsebros, whether it's in the comments of whatever platform that you listen to the Apocalypse Bros on, whether that be Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, YouTube even, whatever the case, make sure to hit that subscribe, like, whatever button, and hit us up in the the comments with whatever your favorite apocalypse-related media content of the past is that you just love and you want to share with everybody. Maybe it's something we don't know about, like you were talking about Waterworld. I've never seen that, so
you never know.
Definitely something I'm gonna next time I'm at an abandoned Goodwill. I'm gonna keep my eyes out for a copy. Of
like I said, it was kind of a love or hate movie, so there could be plenty of. Or you might find that one guy's like, I have 8,700 copies of Waterworld. Would you like to purchase them?
Kevin Costner himself.
Yeah, I'm the cost man.
I love the Costner. This VHS costing me a penny.
I'm going to sell it to you for 10 rolls.
10 rolls.
10 rolls.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Toilet paper rolls. Yep. That makes sense. So, yeah. absolutely check it out. Again, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Leave us a review and have an awesome one. This has been another episode of
The Apocalypse Bros.